Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of New Chapter. Today we're diving into an idea from Chapter 8 of The Psychology of Money called The Man in the Car Paradox. And this is something that's been bouncing around my head since I read it. You've probably seen the person in the fancy car, and you've probably thought, wow, what a nice car, or wow, what a cool car. But how often do you really think, wow, what an incredible person? Probably not very often. So the question I want to start with today is, what do you think when you see someone driving past you in a crazy fast, crazy expensive car? Do you think, man, that person has money? They're clearly doing well? Or do you secretly, or not so secretly think, gosh, why do they need that car? Why do they need all that stuff? It's said that there are two types of people in this world. There's the person that sees a Rolls Royce and thinks, I want to be that guy, and there's the person that sees a Rolls Royce and thinks, who does that guy think he is? And that second group, it makes me laugh because I feel like I fall into that sometimes. Who do you think you are? Slow down a little bit, buddy. Anyway, this idea of the man in the car paradox is pretty simple. The man in the car wants to be admired. He wants you to take notice of him because he thinks it means he has done well in life. But unfortunately, that's not how things work. You see, the people that drive by you in a cool car aren't actually getting your admiration. They're getting your envy. So let me ask you this question. How often do you think about the people who have nice cars? How often do you think about the person that lives down the street with all the fancy toys? Chances are, no, not that much. But how often do you think about the person that drives by you in that car? Well, chances are that you think about that person quite a bit. They get your attention because they have the new, shiny object. But according to Morgan in this chapter, the man in the car paradoxically wants the opposite thing. He wants you to think, wow, that person has a nice car. But what he doesn't realize is that you're not thinking that at all. You're thinking, man, I wish I could afford that car. And then you end up thinking about the car, not the person in the car. And this leads to something else that's really interesting. When we're young, we sort of understand this backward psychology. As kids, we dream of owning a car like James Bond, a car that shoots missiles and flies through the air and turns into a boat. It's silly, right? But as adults, we forget that feeling. Instead of wanting a fun car, we want a car that says something about us. We want a car that projects power and success. And then when we get our fancy car, guess what happens? Our neighbors might say, nice car, but they aren't really admiring us. They're looking at our car and envying it. They're seeing our car and thinking, gosh, I wish I had that car. So we've gone from admiration to envy. Now, it is not that there is anything wrong with driving a nice car, or wearing nice clothes, or living in a nice house. It's just that we can't actually rely on the admiration of others to make us happy. The reason for that is because others don't admire you for your possessions. They imagine themselves having them. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're saying, hold on a second. The whole point of making money is so that I can buy nice stuff. And if I can't buy nice stuff, then what's the point of making money at all? And that's fair. But listen, as we move into our 30s, our needs and wants change. We start to realize that stuff doesn't really matter all that much. We know that the greatest experiences in life, the happiest moments in life, don't come from stuff. They come from connections and love and joy and things like that. So honestly, I think the pursuit of material possessions is kind of like the carrot at the end of the donkey's path. It's something that you run after and think, once I get this carrot, I'm going to be happy. But when you finally reach that carrot, you realize it wasn't worth it. It didn't taste good at all. So then you go find another carrot and the cycle continues. A lot of us buy things hoping that it will fill a void or fill a gap in our lives, but it never really does. And then we end up filling our closets and our garages and our drawers with stuff we don't even need. So let's circle back to this idea of the man in the car paradox, because obviously it goes beyond cars. It goes beyond possessions. It's not just about buying a Rolex or a Lamborghini. It is also about buying a nice haircut, or a designer dress, or an expensive bag, or a big house. When you buy these things, you're trying to signal to others that you've made it. You're hoping that others will look at you and think, wow, that person is successful. But the truth is, most people don't actually care whether you've made it or not. And here's the harsh reality. Most people don't admire you for what you own. They want what you own. Now, Morgan tells a story about a banker he knew who followed this path of buying stuff to gain status. He got the status, but after a while, he started to lose interest in it. He looked around and saw that he had all these nice things, but he didn't have any friends. He had sacrificed everything to get where he wanted to be, but then he realized that no one cared. No one even noticed what he was wearing or what he was driving, and this really shook him up. So he started to scale back on the fancy clothes and the fancy car and the fancy watch. And instead, he started to invest in himself. He worked on his habits and his mindset and his relationships. And guess what? Life got better. He became a happier, healthier, more fulfilled person without the need to show off to everyone around him. Now, this doesn't mean that we should all become hermits and never buy anything nice again. It just means that we shouldn't buy stuff to gain status or to fill a void inside of us. We should focus on cultivating qualities like humility, empathy, compassion, generosity, things that really matter in life. And let's be honest, if you re-driving a Lamborghini, and you re-wearing a Rolex, and you re-carrying a Birkin bag, it's pretty hard to cultivate those qualities, right? It's hard to be humble when you're flashing all your wealth around. You can cultivate those qualities when you re-enjoying your life, and you re-grateful for what you have, and you re-giving back, and you re-helping others. And yes, you can absolutely do all of those things if you have a bunch of money. It's just that you don't need a bunch of money to do those things. So let's close with this. Next time you're tempted to buy something just for the status that comes with it, pause and ask yourself, is this really worth it? Will it make me happier? Will it make my life better? Or am I just buying this to show off to others? If you're being honest with yourself, you realize that you don't need that fancy car, or that expensive bag, or that big house. You just need to be yourself. Okay, I hope that helped. Thanks for sticking with me until the end. If you enjoyed this video, check out our full playlist of the psychology of money right here. I promise that you'll learn a ton and enjoy the ride. That's it for me. I'll talk to you soon.